I've been using the same mouse settings for probably about 2 years now. I felt like it was pretty well dialed in. I got a new mouse that I really liked. Good mouse pad, everything like that, and committed myself to being a low DPI gamer. But recently, I've been having a little trouble with that, and that's why I'm making this video. I kind of want to explore and document the changes that I'm making. The issue that I've been having is it seems like there's kind of a boundary that I'm hitting between low DPI and the need to move quickly. And I've discovered this most prominently in Mordhau, which I just started playing and I would like to be better at, but I don't have a lot of time to practice. So I want to see exactly what settings I can find that kind of fits a middle ground of the different games I play. And I'm primarily an FPS player, but I play a little bit of RTS, but mostly FPS. So it needs to be quick reflexes and a good balance between accuracy and things like that. The problem I'm having is I can kind of focus in and do micro adjustments very carefully, which is great for aim, and I can kind of flick and get the shot sometimes, but there's this middle ground between like the flick and micro adjustments where I kind of using the corner of my palm where I can't control that quite as much. It's more in the wrist, and my fingers have to actually move the mouse, and I do have a little bit smaller mouse, so that could be playing a role too. But I want to explore if I up my sensitivity just a little bit or a lot, does that work overall better? Because I seem to be focused more towards the low DPI side of things. Can I increase it just a little bit or a lot and actually have a better benefit? And the way I'm going to test this is there's one Flash game on Congregate that I really like. It's mouse only. It's a little bit of a mouse control game. It's pretty fun, but that's kind of a micro adjustment thing. Then I'll be using AimLab to really test things out, which that's going to test the broader sense of adjustments. And then I'll probably use Mordhau to feel what the differences are like kind of towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and set a baseline for my performance with my current settings on AimLab and maybe the Flash game, and then we'll compare as I start making adjustments, and I'll show you how I also make these adjustments and how I kind of track those settings. I want to show you how I actually set up my mouse, because that's arguably the most important thing for any setup, is between your games being able to have repeatable settings. Now what I have is a 24 centimeter 180 degree turn, and the way that I set that, scoot the microphone over here a little bit, is to use the edge of the mouse pad to start my movement. So I go just over the edge and then drag it across, and 180 degrees will be approximately 24 centimeters. The reason I use centimeters is they're base 10. It's great. It's a lot easier to measure with for fine stuff like this. Easy number to remember. So 24, I've put my 24 right on the edge there. I'm going to use my phone to mark where 0 is, which is about there. Typically use my wallet, but it gets in the way. Phone can kind of slide a little bit, but as long as you're aware. Now what you can do is you can line up halfway, and in your game you will drag your mouse, it'll start, you'll go fairly horizontal, doesn't have to be exactly perfect, and when the mouse stops you should be 180 degrees. Now in this case there is a degree of measurement you have to take into account where your sensor starts versus where the edge of your mouse hits. So do take that into account. But it's really hard, especially in games, because a new game, you want to set up your mouse to be perfect so it feels like every other game. You can't accurately do 180 degree turns. It's frankly impossible to make an accurate one. So what I do is I double my sensitivity. So now from 400 to 800, line up on my spot, and drag across. Now in this case, I actually fell short. So I wonder if my mouse setting's off a little bit in this game. So perfect situation. I will go to my settings. We're going to go to controls, down to wherever our mouse adjustment is, which is up here. So X and Y, I like to keep those matched. I haven't started experimenting with that, though a lot of games are starting to support that, so that's kind of cool. So we're low. I'm trying to make 180 degrees be a distance of 24 centimeters. Because that's what I originally decided was kind of a good feeling. That's kind of based on default Windows 6 out of 11 sensitivity, which is basically the standard sensitivity at 400 dpi on a mouse with a mouse fix setting for 1440p. And actually I use that on 1080. And I have since upgraded to 1440p, so I think there might be a slight difference there, which could be part of my problem. But the trick is you need to be able to have repeatable measurements each time. So that's why you double your sensitivity and you just turn 360 degrees over your distance to the same point at which you started, which is always repeatable. You can always look back at one spot. It even works fairly well if there's cursor sway. You can just kind of, that's within your boundary. You can't really tell. It's hard to tell. So I actually ended up being a little bit low. This game is awesome because it lets you punch in direct numbers. So I'm going to do 1.1 on both. We are going to save the changes, resume game, and I clicked, so now it's going to make a bunch of noise. But we're going to pick our spot here. We're going to scroll across. And I should be darn close, very close. I'm gonna just compare again, pick another spot, swing around, and that was almost within my error of margin. Without splitting numbers to ridiculously tiny portions of numbers, it can be hard to really make that perfect. So I came up a lot short that time. I think my mouse is maybe a little crooked as I do this. So we're coming up just a little bit short each time. Let this round finish out. Great. Yeah, it's terrible. Thanks, I already know. We're going to go to options again. We're going to try 1.1. 5. That might be either dead on the money or slightly too much. Now, lining up again. Coming off the edge, and there's a little bit of jumbleness there, so I'm going to basically find that point and try to move just... Can be tricky, especially when you have a higher sensitivity. So we'll call that good and start scrolling across, trying to be pretty level. And this is 1.15, straight on my mouse a little bit so it meets. And we went past. God damn it. So let's take out the 0.5, save, resume. God damn it, why does it always do that? Double check this again. Now I'm off by a little bit there. We'll just account for that as we meet. Short by about that much, and then I was long by about the same distance the other time. So let's do 1.25. This is really just splitting hairs, but it kind of illustrates the point that this is surprisingly repeatable and surprisingly accurate. Hey, I did shoot something. That's nice. And we will scroll again. Expecting pretty good results this time. Real close. And that's quite close. I'm going to call that good, so we're not splitting numbers horribly down. And that's a lot of loud music. So we have kind of a rough setting now for our 360 degrees of 24 centimeters. And I'm just going to double check that because, like I said, the phone does tend to move. Not the best object, but we're just under 24. And we were just short on the last test, so I'm going to call that good. Go ahead and move my phone. And now I'm double sensitivity. I have a 360 degree, 24 centimeters. So what I will do is go back to my standard 400 DPI. And now, if I kind of approximate a 180 degree turn, boom, and phone was about there. So it actually feels really good. I really hope I didn't mess up my measurement previously. Let's go ahead and set a baseline here with this, which is by far my worst performance. This is the shot. So, I'm terrible at this, that's for sure. But that actually felt incredibly better than it had been. So apparently I was off by my typical measurement by a little bit. So that's kind of sad. Maybe I don't even need to make this video. But as you could probably see, especially when I get to certain directions of movement, like to move down and left, I have to pull with my fingers and bunch my fingers up, which makes it harder to click or harder to not click because I'm basically having to work muscles against each other so I don't accidentally click. And then left to right is pretty good, but there can be a bit of an arc, though my cursor is moving pretty flat, so maybe I've just gotten used to that amount of movement, even though the cursor's rotating a bunch. Doesn't seem to matter too much. Up and down is pretty straight, but you can see that I have very little motion. So this is from the dot, full range up before I've reached the limit of free movement, and then from the dot, neutral grip, full range down. That's tiny. Very little. May not even be a big issue, but very little. And then we'll go full left and full right. So I have fairly good coverage, but what if the problem is that I'm not reaching the edges of the screen? Maybe that's, okay, that could be interesting. Maybe that's what I should set it up for. But as you saw in the clicking, I'm off target a lot. When I flick to something, I'm off by a little bit, and it's not my monitor, it's me or some dyssynchrasy between me and the mouse setting. Now it's tempting to, every time I come a little bit short, to like, oh, just increase my mouse sensitivity a little bit, but I'm also going too far slightly. So I understand that I can't fix one thing with a slight tweak. I do have to make a sensible overall change based on the way I play, rest my hand, my mouse, my setup, everything like that, to find basically a reason to have a setting that I will stick with because it makes sense. My original setting, like I said, is Windows default 6 out of 11, a mouse fix setting that helps eliminate some of the Windows 10 mouse issues, helps turn off some of those acceleration and things like that. A mouse that has no acceleration, a decent mouse, even by today's standards, even though it's a year or two old. Actually 2 or 3. So I have the tools, but I based everything off of that one kind of arbitrary thing of, hey, this feels pretty good. And that was at 1080p. I've since upgraded the monitor. So this maybe, that's the difference. That could be 1000 or 1920 pixels that I'm moving side to side. In fact, that probably is. But I'd like to avoid using my fingertips to kind of microcontrol stuff so much. So let's go ahead and set better baseline here. I will do several more rounds of this. I'm going to try to be a little scientific, but this is not scientific by any means, technically. But I'll set a few more numbers for baselines, and then we'll maybe just double my sensitivity and see how I can adapt. And then we'll start looking at maybe what my middle ground should be, and if it should be basically the percentage difference, a percentage increase that matches the percentage increase I had in resolution. I have been playing with recoil on, so I went ahead and turned that off, and that's how we'll continue testing these. Though I do want to learn how to manage recoil automatically, which is why I was doing it. But that's another thing that I've had trouble with, is sort of finger packing, where my hand gets all cramped up and kind of in a very unadvantageous position because I'm constantly trying to drag the mouse down. And I feel like that should be a little bit easier, and we have the tools to adjust that simply with the settings, so let's find the balance. Here's my baseline, number 1, with gun bucking turned off. Here's round 2. It's still almost just as difficult. I'm missing left and right. I'm getting flicks feel better, but it's still like just out of my motion range. Super weird. I felt like I was doing better, but I did like a fraction as well as I had been. So this is round 3 scores. I'm going to keep playing. Give it about 5 or 6 rounds to warm up and get my scores, and we'll see what I kind of get. Round 4 felt a lot better. Didn't beat scores higher. I wonder if it's when the circles get smaller, you do better score-wise. So maybe we should go off accuracy instead of total score. That might be a different thing. I might take into account reaction time, stuff like that. Once again, felt like I was doing better, but score is way lower. Accuracy is technically lower. So let's do one more round of this, and then I will do maybe the micro shot. Round 5 or 6 numbers. There we are. We're going to go try some other ones. Now that I am fully warmed up, I've been going at this for maybe 10 minutes. I'm actually feeling a little bit of a pump in my thumb. I want to train something that I am really good at. Usually, I think is the micro shot. We'll go ahead and play that. And theoretically, this should be a really good performance because I've warmed up and the mouse setting's perfect and all that. So we'll see how I do on the thing that I'm really good at. We'll test my flash game now that I'm really warmed up and I have ideas of how well I do at that. And then we'll start just messing around with my sensor. All right, so this one is click in the middle on the dot and then click to the side wherever the dot has moved to as fast as you can and repeat. Okay. So I'm not the fastest at this one, but you can probably tell that accuracy is really good in this tiny little range of motion, which is like not a lot of the screen. So I'm thinking if I double my sensitivity, that same motion, hell, that covers so much more of the screen. So we'll get there. We'll see what really is going on, but I do want to kind of approach this so I have some numbers. So that's round one. We'll go ahead and do it again, but see, there we have some numbers here. So this is my history of playing this. You can see I think I beat my best. Almost my highest accuracy ever for the few times I've played this, though all since today have been with that setting that wasn't like my natural setting that I really have preferred. So it's looking like I'm doing better. I am warmed up. I have changed the settings, so theoretically this is my best performance without practicing a bunch more. Reaction time is lowest it's ever been. Good. Accuracy is as high as it's ever been, pretty much. Great. And score is highest it's ever been. So yeah, looking pretty good. Let's give this 1 or 2 more tries. So that's me tryharding. Yeah, it's telling me I got a left side weakness, so kind of interesting. Way higher score. Accuracy is actually even better, and reaction time's gone down. I just had a slightly different technique that time. Trying real hard, fingers almost sore from the tiny little controlled movements. So this kind of concept would tell me that I should lower my sensitivity more, but I don't know. We're going to mess with it. We're going to find out for sure. The big question I have now is what amount of movement is most necessary for a given video game, and what's best for all of it? Like a movement that's this much of the screen, or a movement that's like, I don't know, this is maybe 15% of the screen. This is like 30%. Should it be like 75%, or should it be 100% that you can reach within your most comfortable control? Like, do you use this palm pivot technique? Do you keep your hand off and pivot from your elbow? I don't have an armrest because I don't like that. My desk is a very specific height because I like to pull my chair up to the desk pretty far and use more of my forearm. So my flick is actually mid forearm across, and some people's flick might be just within this range of motion, or it might, for some people, be their entire arm. And I have a huge mouse pad, but it gets used up even as it is. So we'll just keep trucking along, maybe one more round of this, and then we'll try something else, see how I'm doing on that. Okay, there it is again. A higher score than is usual. Accuracy did go down a bit. I don't know if I'm tired or what. Reaction time went up. not as good. Hits and misses probably quite up there. So let's change games, and I'll see you on the next one. So here we are on this game. This is Attack of the Buggles from the Casual Collective. I've been playing this game for years. I adore this game. It's so simple but so fun. Main premise is you collect boxes. They have timers. Those are your points counting down. If you hit the red guy, you die. And each time you collect a box, you get a new red guy. They build up. After 20, you can't, or after 10, you can slow time by clicking once, and it lets you kind of navigate a little bit better. You can only do 2 of those for a maximum of 20. After that, you're wasting. So every 10 to 20, you want to click. Every 20 clicks or boxes collected, a green guy appears, and he kind of wiggles around. You have to collect him, and you can turn into this super buggle, and you go eat all of the other ones, but you have diminished time and stuff like that to do that. So this is very much a micro control game, and theoretically, I mean, as you saw, my performance on the first game we played on AimLab versus the second, I'm more of a micro controller of my mouse, you could say, and that's definitely because I like to pivot on the palm and control with the fingers, but I want to see what the options are. So we'll give this a few good rounds. I played just the other day with a double sensitivity, and I got that score, which is 282. But my all-time best for this account is 1347. My account that I actually play is Ravane at 1523. And then all the way up here, my other account, Popper Troop, is 1884. And I'm in 9th. I'm the top 10 all time on this website. Holy shit, am I kind of sad. But let's do this. I'm warmed up. I can probably get a pretty good score. Let's go. Let's try to get more than 1,000. See how that feels. And this game kind of has good music, and the sounds are pretty enticing. So I'm going to turn that on in a second. I am getting a little lag every now and then. I can't quite tell if I'm actually running at 60 FPS on this website. I have had problems with that depending on the browser. But that's basically the function of the game. Hey, I just beat my score. So let's turn on the music and really get going. Here we go. Music is on. Let's do this. Does feel pretty good. Partly a warmed up thing, partly a mouse setting thing. It feels really just about perfect for what I like. Although I'm kind of panicking because it feels a little laggy. That's probably just, this is definitely is where my monitor can have quite an impact on performance. Not too good. That felt laggy. What is going on? I'm going to turn off recording. We're going to keep going for a bit. Come on, music, stop. I'm going to turn off the recording, and I'm wondering if that might be impacting my performance here. So yeah, not doing so hot. We'll keep recording. It didn't really seem to have much of an effect, so we'll just keep going until I get a pretty good score. It does feel pretty good, though there might be a little bit of lag. Not sure if that's me today or some system that's lagging things, but we'll just keep going here. It's right when the ad loaded in. I wonder if the ads are being more troublesome. God, okay. So over 1,000. Pretty happy with that. I definitely have gotten higher, especially on this count, 1347, as you can see there, but not too bad. In terms of impressions on my mouse setting, it's okay. It feels good. It feels like it normally does. I feel like with enough practice, I could get a pretty high score. Excuse me, but I definitely feel like the monitor's really holding me back at this point. It's almost like I have mouse trails, and it's the 4th or 5th trail that the cursor is actually following, and that could be all kinds of things. This is literally a Flash game. It's not going to be perfect, but that's how it is. It's kind of a real world comparison. So next, I think it's time to start playing with some numbers back in AimLab and seeing what I can get in terms of what makes sense for range of motion. So we're back. I'll show you that we have the exact same settings from earlier, 1.125. And we are doing 800 DPI in multi-shot. This game, but score was better than some of the other ones. Accuracy, of course, was just junk, but it's to be expected. So let me give this like 5 rounds of this. What I'm going to do now is we'll replay, but I'm going to change my DPI setting back down to its old, and I want to see, hey, what's happened? Oh, fuck. Oh, this is next to impossible to reach. These outer ones. This is too fast for me. You bet it was poor accuracy. Okay, I want to do 400 DPI, but we're going to change up our sensitivity setting. So I've had the same in-game setting to get that 40 or 24 measurement, 24 centimeter distance for whatever setting, but I want to find the middle ground because 400's way too little. 800's maybe a little too much. So what's like 75% of the difference in terms of the distance? So I spit out some numbers. Let me double check this. Okay, cool. So we've got 1.125 for a 24 centimeter, 180 degree turn at 400 DPI in AimLab, double that for 360 with 800 DPI if we want 75%, or split the difference between the two of what our original number is, 1.125. 1.125 would be 0.84, but 75% of our 24 centimeters is 18, so in theory I should only have to move 18 to get that same 180 degree, which is really all I wanted to know. So now I get to decide, do I want 400 DPI Windows feel, or do I want 800 DPI Windows feel? And that's kind of nice. Easy to reach everything, not totally necessary, but let's just stick with 400. Adjust the game so that we are dealing with 18 centimeters, which should mean, yes, that means our number will be higher than what we currently have by a number. Now we do have to remember this is not truly 800 or whatever setting 18 centimeters, because we're still measuring from the sensor catch here to the edge of the mouse. It's not 18 centimeters of travel for the sensor. So it's important to remember for your own adjustments. But this should be our number. And we're going to go ahead and jump in here, see where we're at. This should be 75% of the way to a 180, and that feels like 75% of the way. So we're going to double our sensitivity simply so that we can see an accurate 360 degrees rotation. We're going to spin around real quick, and that felt like 3/4 of a pie. So looking pretty good. 18 definitely feels like 75% of 24, which it is. So let's go to controls. Let's add on our 0.8. Let's see what 360 looks like. And too much. I'd love to be at exactly 1. Wish my mouse could go in like tiny little increments, but that's not how it works on this mouse, so oh well. Closer, still too much. Oops, options. Let's do 1.5. 5. Close, but still too far by like literally the same amount. Okay. So let's do 1.6. Actually, I don't think that's right. 5.5. 1.55. Scroll around here and oh, really close. Let me get a good spin. Oh, so close. Probably within like 5 millimeters, which is a pretty decent error of margin, to be fair. 1.58. Save changes. Resume. Try this again. Scroll around. And just past 1.565. Really stupid number. It's getting intense. And boom. Get a real good start. Clean. Nice and horizontal. And went over. What the hell? Beautiful. I'm going to call that just about perfect. So that is 18 centimeters at 800 DPI. Brought us... what did that give us? 1.565. 18 centimeters at 800 DPI equals 1.565 in game cents. Okay, so we should have 18 centimeter 360. Cool. Let's get back to our game. Let's play with this, see how it feels. Give this a shot. Interesting. So that feels both liberating, where I can reach, feels like I can reach everything, and a little bit quicker. I can reach stuff and feel like I'm not micro-controlling everything quite as much. So I'm going to go ahead, practice with this for a bit, and see what I can get my score up to. May not look like it, especially with these numbers, but I do feel like I found the perfect sensitivity. It's like playing this, which feels like a pretty good range of motion, is now just within reach from my palm pivot technique. So now I want to look at microshot and compare performance after a few rounds of that to long-term performance. And let's see what I'm getting here. Now I did just think of something, of course. Window sensitivity and game sensitivity are very different numbers. A 1 in-game sensitivity means for each sensor input you will move 1 pixel. So let's say this movement is like, I don't know, an inch of movement, and 400 DPI means there's 400 individual commands throughout there telling the cursor to move. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works, but let's say that's how it does work. Now, when I'm not perfectly synced up with 1, it kind of hacks together the numbers. So for each input, it moves not 1, but 1.565. So it kind of has to, over a certain number of samples, drop out 1 or 2 to achieve that rate of movement. Now, my window sensitivity is exactly 6, which is a perfect 1 setting. If you were like all the way to 11, I think that might be like a 2 or something. But over the number of samples, it's perfectly sampled. So if I'm 1.565 in-game sensitivity to reach the circle that I like, what if I just double my sensitivity so that Windows is a good setting, and then in the game I'd be using closer to half of that, which would be like 0.75 of 1. So is that closer to 1? I think it technically is. So then would it drop fewer samples? I don't know. Kind of interesting. I'll have to explore that later. But this is the game mode that I'm good at. So new sensitivity. Let's try this out. Wow, that felt surprisingly good. Look at this. I'm almost as good as I got with what I thought was a better sensitivity earlier, except I can reach things so much better now. I've like adapted surprisingly quickly. So reaction time's like pretty normal. Accuracy's pretty normal. Score's pretty normal. And this is the first try. Let's keep going. I really want to see if I can get better than I did out of like 5 tries earlier with a completely new mouse setting. Whew. So, a little worse than last time. The reaction time was a little bit better. Cool. Keep going. Holy crap. Best score ever. Best accuracy ever. Not the best reaction time, but pretty average. Very few misses. Wow. So, I'd say there's definitely a natural sensitivity, now mouse sensitivity, that I need to be using, and apparently that is 400 DPI with a in-game sensitivity that relates to an 18 centimeter 180 degree turn. It's like not really that simple sounding, but that's what it is, for me at least. So kind of what I was talking about earlier, let's flip it around. Let's see what 800 DPI of Windows sensitivity, but with the other side of like a 0.75 sensitivity is. But before I do that, I want to get like 2 or 3 more good rounds in of this at this setting, and then we'll just immediately compare it and see if there's like just such an improvement that it can really be distinguished. Fuck yeah. Oh my god. 1 fewer misses, 1 fewer, no response. Fastest reaction time I've seen. Highest accuracy I've seen. Highest score I've seen. That is so much better than where I was down here. And it just feels so much better. Like, even if the performance is, it's as good or better, but the feel is what's different, and it's so much easier to accomplish this. It's just feels natural. It feels like I can move away from the center and move right back and get that click every time. I'm happy with these 2 consistent results. Not a lot of data points, I get it, but gotta keep things moving. So what I have here again is my 18 centimeters. I'm going to scoot my microphone over here. Got exactly 18. Same thing as we did to set this, but I'm going to change this to 800 DPI minimum. So we'll have to double that to get our 360. So I will go to 1600 DPI, which is a solid blue. And we're going to go approximately half the sensitivity, because we just doubled it. 7. Very, very big difference. 7.825. Save. Resume. Now I've got a stupid thing counting down, and music's going to start. It's going to get all intense. But should be. It's very hard to position now. A lot more room for error. 360 degrees. Almost perfectly. That's close. Like I said, we're triple the margin of error now that we originally had. Oh, okay, that's too short. That's 3 short. Okay, so it seems not exactly linear between can't have it and get half the result. So we'll do a more round number. And if it's really close, I might actually work on it. Go with that. We're going to get 6 seconds here to really quickly spin it around. Really close, really close. Oh my god, my reaction time was just awful there. Just really bad. So, checking it again. Ooh, oh, that was beautiful. Holy crap. That's really close. Maybe this is a way we can like double up our measurement and make sure it's exact. So all the way in. Perfect. Holy shit, that was beautiful. All the way out. A little over. I'm happy with that because that amount of movement, what's that? Half a door? Let's see what half a door is. From here. Okay, that's a whole door. So we'll go out about that distance. 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters maybe. I'm good with that. So let's go back to 800 DPI. And let's try this out with 0.8 instead of 1.565. Okay, 0.8 on the money, 800 DPI. Going the other way so that my windows feel like menus and things. Feels easier too. Maybe we're using less of a tricky number. Here we go. What was that? What was that? That was... like... just as good? Right? Accuracy, I think, was higher. Score, like, pretty much the same. Reaction time, a little bit higher. Misses, fewer misses, I think. I can't remember anymore. Error size, interesting. So it's at least as good, and I get to use Windows feels better. I'm sticking with that. I'm happy with that. Let's do one more. Let's prove it. Whew. Okay, clearly not amazing, but I'm happy with it. That's what's really going to matter for you is, are you happy with the change that you made, and do you honestly think that it's not just a placebo effect and that you'll really feel better? And this, to me, I screwed up my setting by having this, and now my scale's all wrong, but hey, it's okay. Not, I mean, to me it feels like significantly better, and I also get to enjoy 800 DPI of Windows. So what else should I do? Should I try 1600 DPI and even less? maybe not. Maybe that's not worth it. Let's do Attack of the Buggles, see how that feels, and then we'll end it out there. Okay, so here we are. Let's give it a shot. Fucking atrocious getting started there. Jeez. Whoa. Not so good for Windows mouse control. That's for damn sure. But, I guess... Hey, that's a lot better. Feels easier, at least. Let's keep going with this. We'll see how high I can get. Oh, that was fantastic. Oop, I don't know how that was a dodge. Every time a new ad loads. That's ridiculous. How can that be competitive? Oh, it's so much easier. I know the numbers aren't as high, but it feels easier. Not trying to flick off and getting way off the screen. Even though I'm less steady between boxes, like I can't flick to boxes, it's... Overall, it just feels a little bit easier. It's like microcontrol with this extra sensitivity is just that much better. God, every time the ad refreshes. Oh, okay. Right. Oops. Well, that was certainly an interesting process. I'm a lot happier with the results. I'm going to have to train a little bit and get used to it again, but my goal has always been as minimal effort to get the best results, because especially now I don't have a whole lot of time to play games, so I'm happy when I can get good results. Hopefully you enjoyed something, and if you'd like, you can subscribe for whatever future videos that I might do. No idea.